This short video illustrates how the coordination and the control of the face, eyes, and neck is changing following the use of the ABR tools, particularly the micro rolling with the Vibropen and the use of the ABR Fascia Gel. So here we see the two sets of a similar activity, the child studying or watching the tablet and being more or less equally engaged. And those videos are about half a year apart, whilst there is actually about 4 months of actual work in between them. So what we're seeing in the before video, so the child is really trying to watch the video, but keeping the concentration is not easy because she has to move the eyes together with the movement of the head, and therefore we see some missing components of the concentration. So what we are seeing on the other video is this. We're observing the clarity of the positioning of the head and selective coordination of the eyes with which she is studying what's happening on the screen. So now I'm zooming out so that you are able to see the context, and this is what you can see with the entire posture, which also has significantly changed. So how is it possible that such small applications are having such large effect? Speaking of the small applications, so these are the types of the techniques that we are using with the Vibro cylinder, micro cylinder. And this is the ABR Fascia Gel in use, and this is where the parent is showing where she's applying it on the face, on the lower neck and the upper chest, so and then all around the upper areas. So these are relatively small impacts, as you can see. But these small impacts are having such large effects on the coordination and control. But before we explain what is happening, let's get a little bit more of the details so that you would be able to appreciate how these changes are taking place, not only with this with those observations that are pointing out the way how she interacts with the tablet, but also the great illustration for this would be eating and drinking as the activities of the face that are really engaging the coordination between the circular and the longitudinal muscles. So this anatomical picture is the reminder that the central elements of the eye control and the face control are those circular controls or circular attachments around the mouth and around the orbits, which are counteracting or which are in fact being their epicenters of control in respect to the more superficial longitudinal muscles that are passing over the face and the neck. So what is happening there? It's important to understand that these muscles, the circular ones, they have deep roots. So these deep roots, that's what we have to keep in mind and understand also something that could be seen as a telescopic principle. So which means that every little circle that you observe in their arrangement is in fact the equivalent of this sort of type of the telescopic insertion, which indicates how many of those lines are there and how deeply they're able to counteract the performance of the superficial muscles. It's a very simple equation. If you have the circular muscles of the face and the eyes, which are, let's say, 10 circles deep, then they would be dominating over the superficial muscles, which would be, let's say, 5 circles deep or 5 layers deep at most. But if the situation is, say, 3 circles versus, say, 2 circles, or 2 layers, then the superficial ones are going to dominate. So there has to be really a strong preference of these deep layers. So if you want a good visual, think about this. So think of those as those collapsible, foldable silicone cups. So the more layers you have, the further you can actually expand the whole thing and the better control is there. So that's the same principle with the relationship of the circular, deep muscles and the more superficial ones. So now from anatomy, let's get back to the observation of our uh, contributor, the child who has had really this significant transformation. So now we're looking at the drinking with a straw. And what do we see as the key difference? So that's before, and this is after. So what you're observing, massive differences. How do they show themselves? In a fashion that I have just explained. I've just explained about the activation of the circular musculature of the mouth, circular musculature of the eyes, and as those circles get deeper, they lead the total coordination. So, and that's really the principle that you have to take on board, that the good coordination goes in this 1, 2, 3 sequence. So 1 is the control of the eyes because it has the fastest muscles, the quickest muscles, which the brain trusts the most. Then 2, these are the muscles of the circular lips and around it. So that's the next one where the brain trusts a little bit less, but still trusts. And then the third would be the longitudinal muscles of the neck, which the brain really doesn't trust and doesn't have much of the control because they're too long, passing through too many areas and cannot be really put in a good stacking one after another. So that's what you can see very clearly. And in the video before, what you're observing, the mouth and the eyes, they cannot be separated because this is where the superficial muscles are dominating. So it's the superficial muscles. That's exactly what I explained. The less deep the superficial are dominating over the relatively unconnected circular ones. And as a result, the child finds herself in the situation when her coordination goes 1 from the neck, 2 from the face and the jaw, and only 3 from the eyes. So when you see your child opening the mouth or on opposite, locking the mouth, trying all these sorts of things, and then moving the head as a part of their kind of eating and drinking effort, this is where you see this trouble situation. What you need to switch the controls into the proper sequence where the eye, the circular eyeball muscles, they lead, then the circular uh, lip and the buccinator muscles, they helping, and then the neck is enjoying their selective controls on top of this. And when we talk about the selective control, please note that selective control starts not with the movement, but it starts with the ability to hold still, with the ability to get the autonomy over given region. That's what you're looking for as the primary principle of control. And that's exactly what you're seeing here. You can see that in the before videos, the eyes and the mouth and the face, they're moving together with the movements of the head, whether it's the transverse or the up and down sagittal ones. Whilst now, what you can see that she is able to do the selective controls of sucking, whilst at the same maintaining the same engagement and the eye control over the things that are happening at the tablet. And you see also the removal of the straw doesn't cause this kind of kickback of the eye position. But that's not all. Of course, we also have the eating performance and the way how the things are going. On the one hand, we already see here, if you watch at the performance of the throat, so that her swallowing has really improved, the proper sequence which is happening there, as opposed to what she was dealing with before, like following, and then see, needing the additional help to get it in. Now, you see, that was the first installation. Then nice controls and the nice removals and the nice, so you can see here the nice swallowing that happens after and the recovery of the position. But let's switch to the ones about eating. So after the food came in the mouth, you see the actual chewing process and the attempts to swallow. So you can see here again on the video before, these are big head moves and the trouble in swallowing and the long hold in the mouth. Now, this is the new one. What you're seeing that this is a much more coordinated control of the lips and the coordinated then insertion or well, acceptance of the next spoon. But to give you the total context, this is how the feeding process has been taking place. And again, you can see that she still needs the help with the control of the head as the spoon comes into the mouth. But on the other hand, you can see that the selectivity of the mouth control and the intensity of the head support that is necessary has changed a lot, and also the quality of the afterwards chewing and the ability to swallow. And you see, you also notice this very interesting factor. So please note this. When the support goes into the forehead, you see the longitudinal muscles, they stretch the circular ones, whilst here you can see the division between the longitudinal and the circular ones. Therefore, the selectivity is very much present. So this short video teaches you the effects of what is happening and how the improvement of the control is taking place. And you might ask a question, well, what's the explanation? How do we manage to get this? Again, this is not difficult to understand. And for this, we're going to get back to our favorite set of videos by Jean-Claude Coubertin, so which are depicting and analyzing how the skin, fascia, fat, and the muscle interaction is taking place. So this is the standard anatomical view, which is kind of skinned, without the skin, without the fat, just the muscles. But of course, the deeper reality brings us back into this understanding and into this relationship between the skin and the muscle fibers. And in fact, what is happening? It's the skin that is the main stabilizer in respect to which the muscle fiber moves. So the muscle fiber cannot move outside of the context. It moves within the controls provided by the skin. So in that sense, this is very important to realize that in order to improve the muscular coordination, we have to first connect and improve the coordination that it has in respect to the stabilizing role of the skin. What do we need to do for that? We need to activate these links that the skin has to the muscle. So in fact, we're improving the stabilizing properties of the skin, and this is where the fascia gel is doing this with the bioactive proteins, and this is what the vibro, the percussion, and the micro cylinder rotation or micro cylinder rolling in a specific way helps with the same activation, and that is what reestablishes the relative angular displacement between the muscle and the skin. So as you see, they have to be displaced in this predictable, coordinated parallelogram manner. And if this parallelogram manner is lost, then the coordination is going to be very much in trouble. So that's why we have a very specific way of doing it, and that is a kind of two-way punch. On the one hand, with the ABR Fascia Gel, we are activating and reshuffling, sort of re-energizing, if you wish, their connections, the mesh that the skin has to the muscle. And when we do the rolling, controlled rolling action, the parallelogram rolling action, the shearing control with the microcylinder, so then we are restoring and reteaching the whole thing, how far and how accurate the displacement should be. So activation plus retraining. So that's what we get as the result, and that's what we have as the main effect there of the things that are happening. And thanks to this, we can have these spectacular results in a very short frame of time. So I hope that this has been encouraging on the one hand, on the other hand, informative for you. So, because these are universal mechanisms which are true for any child with cerebral palsy or any kind of troubles with the face control, eating control, postural control, and so on, ranging from milder cases, which are even classified more as the autistic spectrum, and all the way to the very severe ones on the level 5 GMFCMS, the cerebral palsy. So these are the ABR effects, and you can see everything is straightforward and logical and fits into the new understanding of fascia.